There comes a moment, usually unnoticed, where a man realizes that his life has been leaking out through his mouth. Not through failure, not through lack of opportunity, but through words. Unnecessary, impulsive, reactive words. We speak to fill silence. We speak to defend ego. We speak to prove something to people who were never judging us in the first place. And in doing so, we surrender the one thing that could have made us powerful: control. Silence is not emptiness. It is not weakness. It is not submission. It is restraint sharpened into a weapon. The world will tell you that expression is freedom, but unfiltered expression is often just undisciplined emotion wearing a mask. And if we are honest, most of what we say is not rooted in truth, but in reaction. Anger speaks, fear speaks, insecurity speaks, but discipline observes. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." That is not a call to ignorance, it is a call to mastery. To recognize that not everything deserves your voice, not everything deserves your energy. The moment you realize this, something shifts, the noise fades, and in that quiet, something far more dangerous begins to grow. Because when we stop talking, we finally start seeing. 1. We remove the need to be seen. There is a deep hunger in most men, a need to be acknowledged, to be validated, to be recognized as capable, intelligent, dominant. And this hunger leaks through our words. We over-explain. We interrupt. We speak not to communicate, but to establish presence. But presence does not come from volume. It comes from gravity. When we choose silence, we begin starving that hunger. And at first it feels uncomfortable. It feels like we are disappearing, like we are being overlooked. But that discomfort reveals something important: how dependent we were on external acknowledgement, how much of our identity was built on reaction instead of substance. Seneca warned, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy." The need to be seen is a form of expectancy. We expect recognition, agreement, approval, and when we don't receive it, we react. But in silence, we detach from that expectation. We no longer need the room to confirm our worth. We begin confirming it internally. There is power in being the one who does not rush to speak, who listens fully, who observes patterns others miss because they are too busy talking. This kind of presence unsettles people, not because it is loud, but because it is controlled. It signals that we are not here to impress. We are here to understand. And understanding is always more dangerous than performance. Over time, something shifts. We no longer feel the urge to fill every gap. We become comfortable letting others reveal themselves, comfortable letting silence stretch, because we know something they don't. The one who speaks the least often holds the most control over the direction of the conversation. And that control begins long before a single word is spoken. 2. We break the habit of emotional reaction. Most speech is reaction. Someone disrespects us, we respond. Someone challenges us, we defend. Someone provokes us, we escalate. Words become our reflex, but reflex is the enemy of discipline. Reflex is where emotion hijacks reason and drags it into chaos. Epictetus made this clear. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And yet most men never examine that reaction. They justify it. They protect it. They act as if their emotions are truth, rather than temporary impulses demanding expression. Silence interrupts this cycle. When we stop speaking immediately, we create a gap, a space between stimulus and response. And in that space, something powerful happens. We regain choice. The insult no longer controls us. The situation no longer dictates our behavior. We are no longer reacting. We are deciding. At first, this feels unnatural. The urge to respond will burn. The need to defend yourself will feel justified. But that urge is exactly what must be mastered. Because if we cannot control what leaves our mouth, we cannot claim control over our lives. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence is how we exercise that power in real time. It is how we refuse to let the external world dictate our internal state. And the more we practice this, the more we realize something unsettling. Most situations never required our response in the first place. Most conflicts dissolve when we refuse to feed them. Most provocations lose power when they are not acknowledged. Silence does not make us passive. It makes us selective. 3. We strengthen our inner authority. Every time we speak impulsively, we outsource our authority. We allow the moment, the emotion, or the environment to decide our behavior. But authority, real authority, comes from self-governance, from the ability to act according to principle, not pressure. When we embrace silence, we begin reclaiming that authority. There is a difference between someone who speaks because they must, and someone who speaks because they choose to. The first is controlled by circumstance. The second controls it. And this difference is felt even if it is never explained. Seneca observed, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins with restraint, with the ability to hold back even when expression feels justified, especially when it feels justified. Because the truth is, not everything that is true needs to be said. Not every thought deserves a voice. Wisdom is not in having thoughts, it is in filtering them, in refining them, in choosing which ones serve a purpose and which ones are just noise. Silence sharpens this filter. We begin noticing the difference between speaking for clarity and speaking for ego, between contributing and performing. And once we see that difference, we cannot unsee it. We become more precise, more intentional, more dangerous with our words, not because we use more of them, but because we use fewer. And those fewer words carry weight, because they are no longer driven by impulse. They are driven by control. 4. We learn to observe reality without distortion. Words can distort reality, not just for others, but for ourselves. The moment we start talking about a situation, we begin shaping it, interpreting it, sometimes even exaggerating it. We attach narratives, we justify reactions. We create meaning where there may have been none. But silence forces us to confront reality as it is, without commentary, without immediate interpretation, just observation. Epictetus taught, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And embodiment requires clarity. It requires seeing things without emotional distortion, without rushing to label something as good or bad, fair or unfair, just seeing it. When we stop talking, we stop interfering with our own perception. We begin noticing details we used to miss. The tone in someone's voice, the hesitation in their response, the inconsistency in their actions. These things were always there, but we were too busy preparing our next sentence to notice them. Silence turns us into observers. And observation leads to understanding. Understanding leads to better decisions. And better decisions lead to a life that is not constantly reacting to chaos, but navigating through it with precision. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Silence allows us to question that estimate, to examine whether our interpretation is accurate or just emotional noise. And once we start questioning our own interpretations, we begin freeing ourselves from them. 5. We speak with purpose, and that changes everything. Eventually something shifts. We no longer speak to fill silence. We no longer speak to react. We speak because there is something worth saying, something measured, something intentional. And when we do speak, people notice. Because restraint creates contrast. The man who is always talking blends into the background, but the man who speaks rarely and with clarity commands attention without asking for it. This is not manipulation. This is discipline made visible. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." The same applies to words. When we say everything, nothing matters. But when we choose carefully, each word carries weight. Each sentence has impact. Silence teaches us timing. It teaches us that not every moment is the right moment. That sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is wait. To let the situation unfold. To let others reveal themselves fully before we step in. And when we do step in, we do so with clarity, with purpose, with control. At that point, silence is no longer something we practice. It becomes something we embody, a default state, a form of strength that does not need to announce itself. Because we understand something most people never will. The moment we stopped talking was the moment we stopped being controlled, and everything changed. There is a story told of Epictetus, who was once a slave under a cruel master. One day his master twisted his leg violently, testing how much pain he could endure. Epictetus calmly said, "You will break it." The master continued, and the leg snapped. And all Epictetus said was, "Did I not tell you?" No screaming, no begging, no dramatic reaction, just awareness and acceptance. That level of control doesn't come from strength of body. It comes from silence within. A man who has mastered his reactions has already stepped outside the reach of chaos. There's another moment, this time with Marcus Aurelius, arguably the most powerful man in the world at his time. Surrounded by war, betrayal, and political tension, he kept a private journal. Not to express outwardly, but to correct himself inwardly. He wrote reminders like, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Notice that. He didn't run to others to vent, to complain, to argue. He turned inward. His silence wasn't passive. It was a form of self-command. While others shouted, he refined. We can picture a different kind of moment, modern, simple, but just as revealing. A man gets disrespected in public. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's direct. The room is watching. Most people expect a reaction, raised voice, defensive energy, a need to prove something. But instead, he says nothing. He looks, registers, and moves on. And something strange happens. The tension flips. The one who tried to provoke now looks smaller, because the reaction they were hoping for never came. Silence, in that moment, didn't make him weak. It exposed who actually lacked control. History is filled with leaders who understood this principle without needing to shout it. Cato the Younger was known for his discipline and refusal to be emotionally manipulated. In heated political debates, while others argued passionately, Cato would remain composed, often saying very little. Not because he lacked thoughts, but because he refused to let emotion dictate his speech. His silence wasn't absence. It was resistance against being pulled into chaos. And even outside of history, we see it play out daily. Think about the person in a group who doesn't rush to speak, the one who listens longer than others, the one who doesn't laugh just to fit in, doesn't interrupt, doesn't overshare. At first, people might overlook them, but over time, that person becomes the one others watch more closely, because restraint creates curiosity, and curiosity creates attention. There's a deeper layer to this. Silence forces us to confront ourselves. When we stop talking, we lose our usual escape routes. No more venting to release frustration instantly. No more explaining ourselves to justify actions. No more distractions through conversation. We are left alone with our thoughts, and for many, that is uncomfortable, because it reveals how undisciplined those thoughts actually are. Seneca, through Seneca, once described anger as temporary madness. And if anger is madness, then most speech during anger is just madness, given a voice. Think about how many regrets come from words said in moments of emotion. Words that could never be taken back. Words that didn't reflect who we truly are, but only what we felt in that instant. Silence cuts that chain completely. There's also the example of soldiers, men trained for high-pressure situations. In moments of tension, they are not taught to react emotionally. They are taught to observe, assess, and act only when necessary. That discipline is not just physical, it is mental. It is the ability to remain quiet when chaos is screaming for a reaction. And that same principle applies to everyday life. The battlefield just looks different. Imagine walking into a situation where people are arguing loudly. Everyone is trying to be heard. Everyone is raising their voice, thinking volume equals authority. Now imagine one person enters, says nothing, but simply listens. Watches. When they finally speak, it's brief, direct, and clear. The entire room shifts, not because of force, but because of control. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It is built through discipline over time. Even in personal relationships, silence reveals truth faster than words. When we stop over-explaining, stop trying to convince, stop trying to control how others perceive us, we begin to see who actually values us without constant reinforcement. We stop performing. And when we stop performing, the mask falls, not just for us, but for others too. There is a quiet confidence that grows from this. Not loud, not arrogant, just stable. It comes from knowing that we don't need to respond to everything, that we don't need to defend ourselves against every opinion, that we don't need to win every conversation. Because our value is no longer tied to how others react to us. It is rooted in how we control ourselves. And this confidence is unshakable because it is not built on outcomes. It is built on discipline, on the repeated act of choosing silence when emotion demands noise, on the repeated act of observing when impulse demands reaction. Over time, these small decisions compound into something much larger: authority over self. There's a moment every man eventually faces when he realizes that talking has not solved his problems, that explaining himself hasn't changed how others behave, that reacting hasn't brought him peace. And in that moment, if he is honest, he will see that the solution was never more words. It was fewer, because silence is where clarity lives. It is where we separate what matters from what doesn't, where we strip away the unnecessary, where we stop wasting energy on things outside our control, and that clarity sharpens every decision that follows. In the end, this is not about becoming quiet for the sake of it. It is about becoming precise, about reclaiming control over what we say, when we say it, and why, about no longer being a slave to impulse, emotion, or external pressure. And once that control is established, something irreversible happens. We stop needing to prove anything. We stop reacting to everything. We stop being moved by forces we cannot control, because we have finally learned the discipline that most people avoid: to be still, while everything else is loud.